Anytime I do a video where I critique the actions of an officer, not only do I want us to objectively look at that video and understand why it might be a critique against the officer, but I always want officers themselves to put themselves in his shoes and imagine this happening to somebody that they loved. All right, so here's a little bit of context as to what happens. So the officer is investigating a traffic collision, and during that investigation, at some point in time, he decides that he's going to issue the elderly man a citation. The elderly man is not, too keen on him receiving the citation, and he's trying to explain his case. Let's watch this dialogue for a bit at the driver's side window before it actually gets to the use of force.
For a ticket, you're promising saying that you'll take care of it at a later date, whether that be in court or if you take care of it outside of court.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So I'm writing and issuing you a citation for improper U-turn. Yes, sir.
She's hitting me and I got the citation.
I'm not writing a ticket for her hitting you. Okay?
No, she hitting me. You see the...
I'm not writing a ticket.
You see the evidence. No.
Okay.
I didn't make a U-turn.
Sorry. Let me clarify, okay?
Yeah.
Whenever you enter a little intersection thing like that, you are not allowed to go side by side next to a car. Okay? You have to go behind vehicles.
Hey, you are the police.
Yes.
So you know
okay.
How many cars?
We are done, sir. Okay?
Yeah,
I don't want to take you to jail.
I'm ready to go to jail.
You ready to go to jail?
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Okay. That involves impounding your car, too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So over the course of this interaction, the elderly man is not listening to the officer. The officer is growing more impatient, and you could just clearly see it. I'm not trying to be overcritical of the officer's actions, but we also have to be reasonable and real, and you can see that the officer is growing more impatient. Let's continue the video because at some point, the elderly man puts his hands on the officer, which is actually what sparks the use of force.
Supposed to do.
I am the
The way where your vehicle was located, your vehicle is not like that.
Sit down.
No.
You sit up. Get on the ground.
No. See, sir. No. Cho anh ép lần. Anh đánh nó, đánh lại. Anh đi để ép lần.
So initially from the body cam footage of this officer, it's kind of hard to see that the man actually puts his hands on the officer. I'm going to show you surveillance footage that comes actually from one of the adjacent buildings. We're going to go to that angle of the video now, so that way you can see a better, clear depiction of what actually occurs before the use of force.
Your vehicle was located, your vehicle is not like that.
Sit down.
No.
You sit up. Get on the ground.
No. See, sir. No. Cho anh ép lần. Anh đánh nó, đánh lại. Anh đi để ép lần.
Yeah, I'm going to call an ambulance.
So this use of force ultimately led to this elderly man having a brain bleed as well as a fractured neck. So let's talk about it. Is it unlawful for the man to put his hands on the officer? It's unlawful. But we also have to be reasonable. There's a lot of videos where I'll talk about why a certain level of force is justified by officers, just simply given the set of circumstances and the context. But for context of this video, even though the guy was in the wrong for, tapping the officer and not complying with the officer's instructions and giving verbal resistance, I don't believe that the force that was used by the officer in order to take this man into custody was appropriate, just given the fact that he's dealing with a man that is elderly. Now, I'd be the first to tell you that, even elderly people, juveniles can be a threat to the officers. But the real question was he truly a genuine threat in this set of circumstances? And could have been done a different way. Anytime I break these videos down, I'm not necessarily trying to attack officers directly, just simply because I know how difficult of a job it is that these officers have to do every single day. And I'm not in the shoes of this officer. So I want to remove that, type of critique that you guys might give me. But in order to continue to maintain our transparency, in order to continue to bridge divides within the professional law enforcement and the community, we have to call out what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And in this scenario, I don't believe that the force that was used in this was justifiable, because I think that there was alternate ways that he could have handle this situation in order to overcome his resistance, effect the arrest, and prevent escape. If I'm just being real about this video, my personal opinion, again, this is my personal, I could be completely wrong. I just think the officer was frustrated, probably in his feelings a little bit, because the guy wasn't complying with what he was telling him to do. Therefore, that frustration led into him utilizing a little extra force than was necessary. And that, my friends, is not right. So what it's ultimately going to come down to is whether or not his department policy and the law states that his actions were reasonable given a set of circumstances. And what's going to determine that? Well, obviously the man's age, the man's aggression towards the officer or lack thereof. Did the officer have any other things that he could have did in order to take this guy into custody? These are all things that are going to be brought to light when they determine whether or not this was reasonable force. And keep in mind, I don't know anything about this officer. This could be a great officer, but I think this was a mistake that was made. So does it say anything about the character of an officer and how he's treating this elderly man? I don't necessarily believe so at this given time, just because I don't know anything about him. So we always have to keep that in the back of our mind too. And that's not a way of me justifying his action, to just saying, let's be reasonable even of how we assess the situation.